September is actually the most pivotal month of late 2025. So we've got the eclipse season happening, which is always a big turning point, and we've got the equinox and several major transits this month. And if you want to know how this all affects you personally, get your own free birth chart at quietmindastrology.com, and you get your Vedic chart, and then you can apply what I'm sharing of the signs to the signs in your houses, in your chart, and see where these transits are landing for you. And once you get that, you also get my emails that I'll send out with the transcript, the notes from this episode. So you have the summary of all of the transits. And if you want just a screenshot on the video, you can do that now. But we're going to jump into it and talk about the big things. So the first really important one is we are in the eclipse season now. And it's a 6-week window that started in late last month in August, and it goes all the way through September, all the way really until early October. And what this means is there's a window of time where you usually go through some major life change. What that is depends on where the eclipse is, where that lands in your chart, but we're going to talk about that. And I'll have a free guide for that as well coming soon. But that's the big thing happening now. We're in the eclipse window. So notice in your life, like what are the big choices or the big choice you need to make in your life? Again, I'll have a free guide on this if you're not sure, if you're kind of questioning a lot of things. But it is typically a time where you go through a portal of transformation and you come out of it as a new person. And there's a new level of your identity, especially with Leo energy going on in this eclipse. We'll talk about that today. We have the equinox as well on the 22nd, which is a balancing time, a good time for restoring balance and harmony where things have gotten out of balance in your life. And we have other major transits this month to talk about as well. So the first one to look at is on the 6th. Uranus is turning retrograde for 5 months in the sign of Taurus in Kritika Nakshatra. So this is now an opportunity to go back over ways that you've made changes and transformations in your finances and things to do with family, and be more discerning and cut away what is not necessary anymore. And there could be some sudden changes around the 6th for you. And the next day is the eclipse day. So around this time is a pivotal time for everybody. And now you've got 5 months to look back over what you've learned over the past 5 months of this year in regards to relationships, finances, what you expect with these things, and what you need with those things. And Kritika is the discerning knife to cut through what is not really true for you, what is not really aligned anymore. Retrograde means things need to slow down in these areas and find some new, unique, unusual ways and possibly unexpected opportunities for increasing your income, addressing your financial matters, and addressing family matters. So that's a big one starting on the 6th. Then the next day is the actual lunar eclipse, the full moon in Aquarius in Purva Bhadrapada. And that is when the sun is with Ketu, the moon is with Rahu. We have a full moon, and it's always an opportunity of celebration and completion on the full moon. But on the lunar eclipse, like any eclipse day, it's not a good day for any major decisions on the 7th. So it's a good day for sort of laying low, doing self-care kind of things. But it's this portal we're in this window of time of these 6 weeks, which are in Aquarius and Leo. So the big theme is releasing ego, releasing old identities and roles that no longer serve with the K2 part in Leo. And then the Rahu in Aquarius is about moving towards what you really value and your unique expression and your own eccentric sort of way of being and doing things. So there's an opportunity here to bring some sort of celebration and completion to ways that are authentic to you that you've cultivated this year, and to bring some sort of letting go or releasing to identities that are not serving anymore, that definitely served you in the past and they were part of your path and they've been important to you, but now it's about letting them go. And there's an element here of the ego dying and ego death. And this can be a little scary and vulnerable and uncertain, but there's a sense of you're supported. There's a sense of guidance from bigger sort of purpose things here of like what really pulls you forward, what really matters to you, like your vision of why you do what you do. If you have a passion project or a purpose that you're living in, like getting clear on what that is. And if you don't have it, it's even more important to get clear on what it is that is important to you that you want to move towards. And for me personally, like if you've been on your path for a long time, it's important to stay current with that and keep updating that. So this is an opportunity to update that path that you're on of what is in alignment, what is the sort of bigger picture vision that you're moving towards. Your friends, communities, networks can be very helpful in this transitional time through September. So if there is a community you are part of, being more involved in that, or maybe contributing or building community might be something that calls to you, like starting your own community, your own project, or also just becoming part of one or engaging in one or going to social events or community events. And there's big opportunities in those areas this month. So that is on the 7th. Again, no major decisions on the 7th, but around this time, these are the themes going on, and there are major decisions to make around this time. Again, I'll do a full episode just on the eclipses shortly after this one is published. And then the next major transit is on the 12th when we have the moon in its exaltation. And that's always a nice time for any sort of nourishing activities, self care kind of things. The 13th is Mars moving into Libra for 6 weeks. So Mars is exiting Virgo and entering Libra. So through the previous month before September 13th, where Mars was in Virgo, it could bring up a sense of perfectionism, a hard-working nature, and it's a good energy for being productive, getting things done, all of these kind of very celebrated things in Western society. But now as Mars moves into Libra, this is a little bit of a more dissonant energy of like there could be some conflicts in relationships, but like with everything, there's potential positive, negative, or neutral expression. So it doesn't mean it's going to be bad necessarily, but it does mean there needs to be actions around relationships. And this can bring more passion and spice into the relationships and the desire to be more active in romance and relationships. But it also could mean needing to be more physical and something like exercise, sports for yourself, like bringing more balance into your own life. Libra is about finding the balance and what is fair and right. Mars is about taking action. So there's an opportunity for 6 weeks now to bring more balance into your activities of your life. So less of just the yang activities like Mars and Virgo and Leo likes to do, but also bringing in the yin activities and the rest and the nourishment and the relationships as well. But staying with this sort of Mars energy in relationships, like being physically active together, going for exercise, hikes, things like this, expressing the energy intentionally. If it's not intentional, it could come out in this sort of aggressive way as conflict. So if you notice that's coming up and you want to change it and shift the energy, the energy is there no matter what, and it will just kind of move wherever it has the least resistance. So if you are not being intentional with your words and your relationships, then it might show up in harmful ways. So just be intentional with it, direct the energy towards what you want to create. And it can be a very beautiful thing and create a lot of harmony in your life and more balance in your life. But it can be also a very active energy to look at where things have gotten out of balance and now take action to restore balance, which is also very fitting with the equinox coming up on the 22nd. So this is a great month for these kind of Libra activities in general of restoring and finding balance in your life. And then we've got another one. The hits just keep coming in this week, this range of dates. So we've got on the next transit is on the 14th, Venus in Leo for 3.5 weeks. So Venus joins K2, Sun, and Mercury in Leo. So we've got this big pile up in Leo going on this month. Venus in Leo is quite a beautiful energy for relationships, and it can bring in this desire to share what you love in relationships and do what you love. And it can be very fun and exciting. It can be good for like travel and adventures, dates, romance. And Venus is being ruled by the sun while it's here in Leo, and the sun is in Leo. So the sun energy is very strong. The sense of like empowerment, leadership, creativity, very strong this month. So if you have any sort of creative projects you've got on the back burner, you've been wanting to become more creative or waiting for the inspiration or the timing for it, this second half of September is a very creative and inspired kind of energy, but it's going to shift quickly here. So the sun is going to move and Mercury is going to move right after this, right after Venus gets here. But Venus is staying here. So the Venus part is creative. Leo is creative. That's very good. But it's going to quickly move when our next transit comes on the 15th, when Mercury moves to Virgo. And then the 16th, the sun moves to Virgo. So Venus is in Leo, which is the sun sign, but now the sun is in Virgo, which is Mercury sign, and Mercury's in Virgo. So that means we've got this very strong Virgo energy over the Leo, over the creative energy. So again, very creative, but it's more detail oriented, more organized. So if there's like a creative project that requires a lot of organizational skill and planning, like writing a book or painting or big art projects, this is very good. And for relationships, this can bring in perfectionistic tendencies and critical tendencies in relationships. But again, everything is positive, negative, or neutral, depending what you choose to do with it. So we have this potential now of the Virgo, the healer, and the one who likes to enjoy harmony and order and structure and beautiful things, and Venus and the creative energy. And then Mercury here, the intellectual energy, is in its own sign. So it's an amazing time for learning. Mercury's just there for 17 days from the 15th. So basically, the second half of September, great for learning as well. So if you have a creative project that requires learning new skills and things like this, is very good. Sun is there, of course, for a month. Sun is always in a sign for a month. And Sun in Virgo is quite a good energy as well, especially when it's got the ruler there with it, and Mercury in its own sign, very strong. So this is very good, and Mercury is exalted, so very high expression of Mercury energy. So very creative, very inspired, very good for learning, and very good for communication overall. So this all helps the communication in relationships and helps avoid some of the harsher parts that could be there. So I've already addressed that. So being aware of if there are important things to talk about in relationship, it's important to talk about them. And personal relationships, business relationships, family, any form. But it's just good to be aware of the Mars energy could be a little intense, and the Mercury energy could be a little too analytical or controlling or judgmental. But other than that, it's very good. So it can be directed towards a lot of learning, a lot of growth, and a lot of improving the communication and opening the channels where you can learn through sharing more and connecting and communicating more. So again, workplace, home, wherever this shows up, it's a good time to embrace going into deeper communication, and there can be big lessons coming through that this month. And then the next big transit is on the 21st when we have the new moon slash solar eclipse in Purva Falguni, and that's in Leo. And as always, the new moon is an opportunity for new beginnings and setting new intentions and setting the stage for the next lunar cycle. But when it's on the eclipse, it's really setting the stage for the next eclipse cycle for 6 months. So no pressure, but a good time to evaluate what you want to be creating, who you are, what matters to you, what roles you want to play, how you want to show up in those roles. Lots of big questions to consider here, and a good time to pause and assess these things. But you may find that there's a choice to be made around this time of what role you want to be focusing on and what roles you need to let go of. Because Leo is the sense of ego, pride, control, this kind of identity. It's an opportunity now to assess, is that really aligned? Is there something that needs to be adjusted here and reset so that you can move in through this next 6 months with intention and with the identity that you're growing into? And we're always growing into new identities, intentionally or not. So it's a good time to be intentional with that and how you want to create. And Leo can be about where you feel confident and powerful and like third chakra energy and standing in your power. So you're stepping into a new level of your authentic expression. And ego is not necessarily a bad thing. There's a healthy ego that you can step into of being of service and contributing and sharing your gifts. And this is an opportunity on the 21st to step into that new level of healthy ego and let go of any unhealthy ego roles and identities that you have from the past that are still there. Again, I'll go deeper into this with a special guide and help you clarify what's going on for you and your chart. So that's coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. But then on the 22nd, we have the equinox, which is the day and night are equal length. So a time of balancing. And in the northern hemisphere, that means now moving towards winter. In the southern hemisphere, that means now moving towards summer. And a shift of energy. So in the northern hemisphere, this now means moving towards longer nights. This means more yin energy coming in slowly over the next 6 months and moving out of the peak of the yang energy. So there's a thing in Ayurveda that all diseases begin in the transition of the seasons. So we are in the transition of the seasons here, and whatever dosha you're living in has accumulated in your system, in your tissues during that time. And if it's become excessive, then you're likely to get a seasonal flu or sickness during that time. Very normal, very common. And part of that is the accumulation of the dosha from the Ayurvedic perspective. So that means you may need to be extra intentional through September to make sure you're not getting too excessive of like if you're in the summer, like too much heat all the time without balancing it out with coolness. Like the perfect summer food is watermelon, just and like cooling, high water content foods are perfect for the summer to balance out the external heat. And then, of course, in the winter, it's like that as well. It's colder outside, so warmer, soupy kind of things are good inside. So, just making sure you're balancing your doshas. And basically, if you're going too far in one extreme, you're more likely to have some sort of excessive issue, like an illness from that thing. So, you can restore balance by going in the other extreme, not necessarily all the way to the extreme, but just moving that direction more towards equanimity, which is what the equinox is all about on the 22nd. So hopefully this gave you some insight into what's going on in September and helps you know what to work with. If you found it helpful, leave a comment on Spotify or on YouTube. And again, if you want to know how this affects you personally, get your free birth chart on my site. And I will have an episode shortly after this that will help you understand what is going on for your own rising sign and your moon signs for this eclipse season, because it's a very important, pivotal time. So I want to give you extra tools for that. Thank you for listening and look forward to sharing more with you next time on the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast.